We're joined now by the Attorney General of Kentucky, Daniel Cameron. Mr. Attorney General, appreciate you being with us, sir.
I am honored to be with you all. Thanks for having me, and grateful for the chance to talk a little bit about what's going on in Kentucky.
Yes, sir. Well, we want to talk to you about that, your upcoming governor's race, how Mitch McConnell could play into things, and a lot more. If I could, though, first, sir, I wanted to ask you, you've taken some action, filed some lawsuits even, revolving around or dealing with the unwillingness of the Biden administration to secure the southern border. Could you just tell everybody, what have you been doing on that front, and how do you see this dereliction of duty at the southern border playing out in your state?
Well, obviously we have made a decision to get involved on this front in filing lawsuits and demanding certain actions be taken by the Secretary of State because it's impacting our people here in Kentucky. We all know that China is creating fentanyl, at least the components of it. They're being assembled in Mexico, and then they make their way across the southern border, and they impact and kill families here in Kentucky. In fact, 73% of the overdose-related deaths that we've seen here in Kentucky are because of fentanyl. And so as the chief prosecutor and the chief law enforcement officer here in Kentucky, I've got a responsibility to all of our families to do everything I can. And that's why I've asked the Secretary of State in the Biden administration to declare fentanyl a weapon of mass destruction and to make sure that we label the cartels out of Mexico foreign terrorist organizations, because, again, we need a approach from the federal government that takes this seriously, that secures our border, and that uses every agency and department of the federal government to fight this on behalf of our families.
Appreciate you coming on, Mr. Attorney General. And by the way, I want everybody listening in the state of Kentucky to have no uncertainties about this. There's a major election happening for y'all in November. Andy Beshear, and this is just me talking before I ask you a question, Attorney General. Andy Beshear was a disaster during COVID. He doesn't represent the people of Kentucky. He has been a failure as a governor. Every single one of y'all listening right now, all over the great state of Kentucky in the bluegrass, you need to be doing everything you can to get this guy elected who we're talking to right now, because it matters a lot. And that leads into this question that I'm going to ask you about. Daniel Cameron with us right now, Attorney General of Kentucky. There is a dispute. I know you know Mitch McConnell well. I know that he is a friend and a mentor of yours. He obviously is over 80 now, and he's had some health conditions, as most people over the age of 80 do. Kentucky passed a law that effectively said, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, you're going to be the expert on this, but this is my understanding, that in the event Mitch McConnell were not able to fulfill his duties as senator through his term in 2026, this Kentucky state legislature would pick 3 people that they thought were potential replacements, give those names to the governor. Right now it would be Andy Beshear, and that Beshear would be obligated to pick one of those 3 to fulfill the term of Mitch McConnell, or at least fulfill it till there was another race. Beshear is saying, correct me if I'm wrong and lay this out because I think it's really important. Beshear is saying he doesn't believe that law is constitutional, and he's telling Democrats that effectively he would appoint a Democrat and challenge this in the courts, and there would be a huge mess here. You, on the other hand, I imagine would just, if you were in office, appoint a Republican. This wouldn't be an issue at all. Why does this matter so much? Am I analyzing it correct legally? And isn't this an integral issue for the people of Kentucky to be involved in?
Clay, man, you hit the nail on the head. I mean, this is so important. I mean, Andy Beshear and the far left Democrats here in Kentucky have basically said they are going to dismiss the law that was passed by our General Assembly that, yes, says that in the event something were to happen to one of our senators, then the governor has to essentially pick someone from the same party. But Andy Beshear said he's not going to do that, basically. And that's a shame. And the stakes are that high in November. We've got to have a governor that will abide by the laws that are passed by our General Assembly, and that's going to appoint a Republican to represent Kentucky's values in Washington, D.C. We need to have that maintained in our federal delegation. And if Andy Beshear gets to make this pick, he's going to disregard the law. He's going to appoint a far-left Democrat to be the next senator of Kentucky. And like you said, they enjoy holding things up in court and trying to litigate something. And while that happens, a Democrat will be sitting in a Senate seat here in Kentucky. Look, again, that's why this race is so important, because again, if anything happens to one of our senators, I'm going to appoint a Republican. And we're going to have somebody that reflects our values in Washington, D.C.
To me, this is a no-brainer to decide the election. And I want everybody in Kentucky to be listening to this, because what they're going to try to sell is, we're going to have balanced government. I'm not really a Democrat. But he is saying he will defy the law of the Kentucky legislature, and he would tie this up in court, and he would put a Democrat in the Senate. And as you well know, Daniel Cameron, Attorney General of Kentucky, who should be the next governor, as you well know, in a 50-50 Senate, which is effectively where we are, that decision could swing control of the chamber. I mean, this is a huge deal. I can't believe it's not a bigger story.
You're exactly right. I mean, it is such an important part of this race, such an important part of the November 7th election. And that's why we need to get as many people as possible to the polls. Right now we see polling that shows that the governor and I are in a dead heat. But we've got to seal the deal because our kids and our grandkids' futures are on the line, but also, in many ways, our United States Senate. And so I'm going to make sure that we have strong representation there. Again, certainly don't want anything to happen to either one of our senators. I value and respect both of them, and am honored to know them and have their support in this campaign. But we've got to make sure we have a Republican governor so that we can make sure that we continue to have Republican leadership in our United States Senate coming from Kentucky.
Kentucky Attorney General Cameron, appreciate you being with us, sir, and good luck to you.
Thanks so much. I'm going to jump off and start reading the American playbook, so thank you all.
I appreciate that. I think you'll enjoy it. I look forward to look, I'll put this offer out there. This fall when I'm hanging out and coming up for a Kentucky game or one of the races at Keeneland, let me know what I can do to help, and I'll come to one of your rallies with you.
I appreciate that so much, guys. Thanks. God bless you.
I mean, I'm going to come hang out. That sounds.
Have you ever been
fun.
to Keeneland? Have you ever been to a horse race?
I was going to say I'm going. I want to go to Keeneland. I want to go have fun things at the races too.
By the way, let me just let you sell for people who have never been to a horse race. I might have asked you this before. How much fun is it, Attorney General Daniel Cameron, to go watch a horse race in Kentucky?
Oh, I mean, there's nothing like it. I mean, it's the most exciting 2 minutes in 2 to 3 minutes in the world. And Buck, we got to get you here, man. Come on with Clay. We'll have a good time. We'll make sure if we go to Keeneland, we do some tailgating as well. We'll catch a football game, too. It'll be a nice weekend.
That sounds fantastic, Mr. Attorney General. Thank you so much. We look forward to seeing you. And, Clay, this is where I admit I have not been to Kentucky before.
So, oh, no.
I know.